Okay, so we'll pretty, we'll check your homeworks pretty quick. So let's see here. So a few people, the views were changed. Okay, because a lot of people are doing a lot of research. So many people are working, so people change the views. So some people had a hard time to locating the user story. Okay, so I mean, that's okay. Unless you're not deleting that user story, that's fine. Okay, you don't want to do that. But if you're changing views, you can change it back. It's not a big deal. Okay. But yeah, of course, deleting someone's work is not good. So that's fine. So yeah, some people had some hard time, like the views were changed, so it's not able to see the user's story. But I changed the views and now it's good. Okay. So, see you. Okay, good. So yeah, you guys are good with this. So and make sure you guys put this in ready status. Okay. If you're working on current project, make sure your defect is ready. Okay. You just click on the status ready, and it should be good. That means is it ready for development, or is it ready for your defect is ready to go to a particular developer. So that's what it means. Okay. So this is about having more than stuff. You cannot have more than stuff. Okay. So I'm muting everyone. If anyone has any questions, they can unmute themselves and you can ask. Okay. So here, yeah, that's good. This is good. And let's see here. Okay, so yeah, that's good. I mean, this is how you have to open defects, and remember, okay, remember that you have to. So your job is to show that application is broken, right? Every time because you're a tester, and you have to, so this we all did. Okay, remember this is, see here we didn't use any document. You see this? We didn't take any document. No BRD, no FRD, no mapping document, no nothing. We did this as a common sense, right? Common sense billing address, common sense that the page is navigating. This is all based on common sense. We really don't require this for such kind of defects. Okay, so but again, coming to the same point, you are not going to open a defect unless you confirm with your peers, right? Either your boss, your normally lead, not always boss. Okay, so you lead and then say that, and then you have to open this. Remember, this is the way you have to work, because if you are opening a defect and you didn't tell to anyone, that means you didn't tell to your lead, then the next you'll get a call from your boss. Who told you to open the defect? Okay, so that will be, you have to answer such question. So always remember, you have to confirm with your peers to make sure um, that's a valid defect. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. So let's go here. So today we'll talk about. We are done with this. So we'll talk about the SharePoint. So we'll just talk once we go to the Jira. So we have just access to the Jira, and we'll talk about this pretty quick here. But we'll talk about this various documentation. So this will we'll just move this to the next class. That will be on 7th class. Okay, so we'll just move this one. But here we'll talk about this various documentation. Okay, because now we know the procedure, we know the process, what is our job. That's it, our job. We have to open defects, and we have to make sure as a QA, as a matter of fact, as any software tester, ETL tester, software tester, or QA, or QA engineer, QA analyst, or even some part of data analyst. Data analyst also, you'll see sometimes a discrepancy in the data, is still open defect. Okay, so that's what, as a QA point of view, you have to always open defects. Okay, so that's what your priority is. That's a major work which you have to do. Okay, but here that's not the only thing. You have to understand various concepts. Okay, various things, because you have to know various process, because all these are done by management perspective. So since you are in the system, you have to know various process like SDLC. This is a methodologies. Okay, SDLC, STLC, bug lifecycle. Okay, and and methodologies. It's basically various methodologies. Okay, of course, this is not a software. This is not a tool. Somebody asked me, like, no, why don't you give me access to SDLC? Okay, so you have to understand SDLC is not a tool. It's not a software. It's a framework. That means when you're working in a system, you have to know how the system works, right? So that's how it's a concept of understanding. Okay, you have to understand those concepts. It's not a tool just to give an access and do this. No, it's a methodology. It's a process framework. In the system, how the system works. Okay, so that's how these things are. But before that, we'll just go to various documents here. So let's talk about these documents in detail. So let's see here. Just give me a second. For some reason I was not able to find. Okay, so here let's talk about BRD document. Okay, BRD is business requirement document. Okay, so what does it contain? So exactly, right? So what does it contain? So it contains 10 to 20% of use cases, business modeling, risk analysis, and budget information. So that's what the BRD is all about. Okay, let's not stick to theoretical. Theoretical is okay, but you want to see how does this look like, right? This saying is not enough. Nobody understands what it's like what you're talking about, right? So let's see how does this BRD document looks like. Okay, so by today I'll be giving you access to Google Drive. So no worries, you'll be having this access, so you can look into these documents, various documents, and see how you can understand the documents. Okay, so let's see here. So I use a little slow, but okay, good. So so this is here. If you want to look into these documents and if you want to know more information, go to here, go to testing documents, and let's see here, business requirements. So let's see here one document. So this is a BRD document. Okay, so this is a BRD document, and it contains a lot of information. You see this? It contains the summary. What's going on with the project? Project requirements and assumptions. What's the requirement, and so it's contains a lot of information. So see again, this document is prepared keeping a lot of people in mind. Okay, not just you and developer. So this is prepared, keeping a lot of people, like it's not developer, it's an architect guy, it's there's a business analyst, there's a project manager, and there is a data analyst or person who analyzes this data and what's going on with it. So a lot of people are actually working in it. So so that it doesn't just for one or two people. So it's not necessary that you understand this document at first attempt. No, it's not necessary. Okay, so you have to read more than once, try to understand what's going on with that, what's happening, and what is your role in this project. The thing is, so here you see this description, it may not be applicable to you, but as a QA point of view, you have to understand this document. How are you going to test, or how are you going to write your test cases? So far, we just had this application ready-made, so it was just a cakewalk, right? Just see the application, write the test cases. But in the real time, that's not going to happen. You have to, look at this document, understand what this document says, and if you're not getting it, try to understand and check with the lead. Hey, what? This is what they are saying. What are we testing here? So, what are the major test cases we'll be looking to it? So that's how you have to, get an idea based on this information here. There's a lot of information. As a tester point of view, you may not understand at first attempt. You have to read more than once, right? Twice, thrice, or take some time, 1 hour, 2 hours, and try to understand what's going on with it, and see you can come up with scenarios. First, try to come up with scenarios, positive scenario, negative scenario, boundary values. Then try to jot it down and write this how to write the test cases based on this document. Okay, so this is the BRD document, so business requirement document. Okay, so let's go to next. Next we have this FRD document. So FRD document, see, BRD document is more for ETL perspective. Okay, BRD is more for ETL perspective, right? It's more ETL guy has to look into it. But FRD is more related to QA perspective. That's a functional requirement document. So let's see here the small FRD document. See if you can try to understand this one. So this would be pretty easy as a QA point of view. So this is what will be written here, and see here. This is a functional requirement. You see this? Hope everyone can see it. Okay, So this is the functional requirement. So you know what they're trying to say is here. Okay, this is what. And what's the message format means? This is the format they're trying to say. This is what you have to understand here. Okay, so your job is to try to understand the information given up here. Okay, this is very important. Yeah, you also have to see if this is any part of you or it's a ETL perspective. You have to understand that one. Is it ETL or is it a QA? But this looks like a QA for me, right? This looks like a QA. Let's see how I can understand as a QA. Now, let's see here. Now, if I already know, let's say I already know this application, right? Now let's see how can I relate that. So this is not BRD, FRD for this. I'm just trying to correlate with the current application and with the FRD document. Okay, so let's see here. So what they're trying to say is, now let's put this both and try to see what's going on. Let's say they're trying to say prescriber first name maps to first name field value. Okay, so I've got this name and this is a field value. Okay, sounds similar. Last name. Okay, so this guys don't have this last name, so first and last name will be here. Okay, address maps to address field value. Now, okay, so that means they're talking about the static text and its field value. Okay, good. Next, you have the city. This has the city. So this is how you want to pursue your application based on this document. This document, okay, so this doesn't have screenshot, so you're unlucky on this. They just gave in the form of information. So now all the information is here. You want to correlate with the information you already know this application. You already know this application. Right? You already know this application. You want to correlate that. Okay, so this is what they're talking about, right? This is the name. Okay, this is the zip field. Okay, this is the phone. This is the email ID. Okay, so this is what they're talking about. So that means you have to test all these field values for various characters, from positive, negative, and boundary values. And if there is any special characters, all this comes into negative values. Okay, all this you have to test. Does it make sense? So that is FRD document. Okay, it's a functional requirement document. This is what you'll be having. You will not have this application ready-made. Okay, you never. Most of the time, you will not have this application ready-made. What you'll be having is document. You have to look through this document, understand what's happening, try to relate it. Read more than once. And try to understand what's going on, and then correlate which you already know it, right? It's easy to correlate which you already know it. So that's what the FRD is. Okay, let's go to this next. This next is SRS, System Requirement Specification. So this most probably you will not have. You will not be requiring this too much, but let's see here. So again, it's a document prepared by whom? This SRS and all this prepared by the different team levels. Okay, maybe architect guy, some architect, dev architect, or so those guys will be preparing it. And who is preparing requirement and FRD? Business analyst. Business analyst or product owner is the guy who is responsible for preparing BRD and FRD. And SRS is some architect guy, not always business analyst. Okay, so some architect guy or some team member, okay, will be preparing this. And let's see here, what does it contain? So exactly, right? So what does it? So it contains high level description of architect level. So what's happening? So let's say it's a hardware kind of, right? Whenever you're working on how many servers it has been installed, how many it's connected, how many devices it's connecting, all this information, right? It's kind of high level on the architect level. Architect level information it contains as SRS, okay, System Requirement Specification. Okay, and this is what it contains. It contains overall description, system features, okay, user registration, how it's and what is the bill, and final depositions, additional features. There are any additional features, external interface requirements. So this is more of an architect kind of point of view. Okay, so this is how what SRS contains. So let's go to the next pretty quick. Okay, next you have PDM, that is physical data model. Okay. So what does this PDM contain? PDM is physical data model, and it contains physical entity, right? Physical entity of a database. Okay, what is physical entity? It's table. Okay, so let's see here. So it contains information about the tables. So this is what it contains. What is the introduction, data model overview, elements, what is the data model used for. So all this information is contained in this PDM. So let's see here. So somebody asked, right? So while writing test cases, are we referring to SRS or BRD document? Okay, so let's be specific here. If you are writing test cases for a QA point of view, let's talk about this QA point of view, then you'll be referring functional requirement, okay, not BRD. BRD, of course, you might look into it, try to understand what is there, but FRD you'll be using more. But if you are working on an ETL perspective and you want to write your test cases, then you'll be working on BRD document, not FRD. FRD is front end, functional. ETL is back end, so that would be a big. SRS is something which is you want to look at it if you have more questions in the architect level, that you have found some defects in ETL perspective and you want to see what's going on. In that case, you want to look to this SRS. Otherwise, normally you don't really look through this one. Okay. So you see this is PDM. And this contains various modeling, how this movement of this primary key, the candidate key, foreign key, all those things are here, right? So there is one more thing which is called ER diagram, entity relationship diagram, and that's pretty much more detailed than this. It contains detailed information, and you have to get that from architect or database administrator, who because that would be pretty huge. If you're working on ETL especially, not for functional. Functional you may not require all this, but if you're working on ETL, then of course you have to get this ER diagram, entity relationship diagram. Because when you're working on it, you have to write SQL queries. When you're writing SQL queries, you have to know a lot of information. What is OLTP? What is OLAP? And what's a natural key? What's a primary key? How do you relate all this? When you get this ER diagram, every whole picture will get clear. Okay, so that would be important because this shows where the data is flowing, from where the data is coming. All this information will be showing up. Okay, but this is not. This is only about PDM. Okay, it's little bit less than ER diagram because it still shows a lot of information. Okay, about how the data is movement, but it still contains information about table, what the table is doing. Where is it? Star schema, is it a Snowflake schema, or is it a Galaxy schema? And all this will be having information on this. So this is about PDM. Next, you have one more, this LDM. It's called logical data modeling and contains logical entity of the database, right? And what's a logical entity? It's a views. Okay. And it's a similar to PDM, but it only contains about the logical entity of a database. That's views. Okay. It doesn't contain about PDM. It doesn't contain about tables. It's about only views. How the views are there? What's the purpose of this views and how you are going to relate with this? So all this information will be there in the LDM document. So let's see here. There is one more called HLD. The HLD is the high level design document. Okay. So here let's take an example here. HLD, is kind of a block diagram. Okay. So high level, it's kind of block diagram. This flow chart. This once you start, you have this. Let's take an example. How do we use this? Okay, so let's say you're calling a Bank of America, right? Let's say you're calling a Bank of America, and once you call, no one picks up directly, right? No one picks up. It's automated service. That's automated service is called web services. Okay. So what happens, right? When you call, let's say there's a lot of questions of you, like what is the PIN, what is your SSN, what is your account number, what is the debit card number, and all those things. Once you put all this information, that call flow will reach to the next flow. If the information is correct, it goes into another flow. And if your information is wrong, then it goes to another flow. And if you're not giving any information, that goes to another flow. So that's, all is documented. That's called high-level design. Okay, it's a kind of block diagram like flow chart, and it contains information, flow of information. Okay, if you are giving wrong information, how it's moving to the next step. If you're giving the right information, how it's moving. At the end, you say, okay, I want to talk to customer executive. Then it moves to the next flow. Next, it connects to customer executive. Okay, so that all information, the flow, the call flows, it's normally the call flows that is documented here in the high-level design. Okay, now there is something called TDD. This is a technical design document. So what does this exactly contain? So this, let's say you're running job. Okay, so this is of course ETL perspective. Now, as you always know, right? You have three environments, right? Dev environment, test environment, and production environment. Three environments. Now, how do we move code from one environment to another environment? And I use a tool called Autosys. Okay, there's not just Autosys. There are so many tools. Autosys, Tidal, lot of tools. But let's take in here even Informatica. Informatica Workflow Manager does that. Okay, so what does it do? It takes all the code and all these things and put into this dump into test environment. But here to do that you need some specific tool, right? Not just copy paste. Copy paste doesn't work. Millions of data, that's a TBs of data. There's no copy paste. Okay, so you want to write SQL queries and they document it. There's a specific tool for that. It's called Autosys, and they write SQL queries, when to trigger that, when to trigger Informatica flows, when to trigger SQL queries, and all those things is documented, and that is documented in this called TDD, technical design document. This is like block diagram. That means it contains independent jobs, dependent jobs. That means this job will kick first, this job will kick next, and first you have to complete this dependent jobs. Then you have to independent. All this information is actually documented in TDD, technical design document. Okay, so let's move to the next one. STM. STM is source to target mapping document. Let's see here. Let's go here. Okay, good. So let's take an example of this one. So this is STM. What is this? This is STM, source to target mapping document. What does it contains? It contains all the information about your whatever project you're working on, like tables, because a database has tables. Tables have rows, or tables have columns. Okay, tables have a lot of things, right? So here we'll not discuss about rows because rows will be millions. Okay, so that's the reason. Normally, it's normally don't discuss about rows, but of course, if it's a typical project, then you might also put the information about rows. But we'll only discuss about table. What's a table? Okay, what's database? Is it a source? Is it target? Is it a staging? Okay, is it other than that? Okay, and what does the table contain? Contains columns and rows. Is it, what is the primary key? What is the secondary key? All those things. So you can write test cases based on this mapping document. Now you don't even require BRD, right? Because this case, this is more technical. You need technical information to start writing a test cases. BRD doesn't have that much of technical information. You see that the difference. BRD doesn't have too much technical information. This has too many, technical information. So let's see here. So here you have BDW. BDW means business data warehouse. Okay. And what is it? So here you have target column name. Okay. Target column name, target data type. Okay. So what's the data type is this column. So these are all columns. So we're not, as usual, we'll not talk about rows. We'll only talk about this column because you're querying always with the columns, not with the rows. So see, normally you don't use, unless it's a different database. Some database also have row querying. Okay, but we'll not discuss about this. I think that's a MongoDB or something which you can also query through row. But here, Oracle or any other database, you are using columns always. Okay. And what's the data type is that? Is it a date? Is it an integer? Is it a variable character? And so on. And BDW target PK. PK is primary key. Okay. So always you need to know. So here you see this. There can be only one primary key for that table. For a table, you can only have one primary key. But see here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's so many primary keys here. So that this is called composite primary key. You can have multiple primary keys in a table to form a composite primary key. Okay, so that could happen too. So this is information about this target. So if you have to have some information about a source. So this is the information source. So these are the tables which are. These are the columns. These are the columns which you have to write a SQL query, and what the data type is supposed to be here, and the transformation logic. So that's more important, right? Transformation logic, you have to write the transformation logic, how you want to query the data and bring the data, and you have to compare with the target. Sometimes, most of the time you write it, actually you write transformation logic on staging table, not on source, but there are scenarios where you have to write transformation logic for source too. Okay, sometimes you have to, sometimes they'll give you easy, it's not easy, you have to either write a SQL query based on understanding what's written here, or they might put some SQL query which you will not understand, obviously, because all the SQL queries will be based on developer point of view, and they just take, the developer guy just takes a SQL query from the Informatica, generated from the, Informatica, paste it here. So they don't worry about is this query working, is not working, because obviously your your system will be having a testing environment. Obviously that query will not be working. So you have to see which database it's located and find out and write the correct SQL query. So okay, you have to make sure that. So even though if they put the SQL query, it's no point, right? Because they just copy paste from the generated from the Informatica and put it here, but that doesn't help because they did it in dev environment or some other environment, we don't know, and those environment database connections are completely different, and the database is completely different. So many things. In test environment, there's no such kind of database, there's no such kind of connection, so that copy paste does not work for you too. Okay, so that will be the scenario. So this is important. So this is called STM. Okay, source to target mapping document. We'll go pretty quick here. We are running late. Now we have a test plan document. Okay, let's see here pretty quick. What's a test plan? So test plan is a high-level document prepared by the QA lead. Oh, I believe here we go. So I'll be giving you homework on this. not today, maybe sometime later. So here, this is the test plan. Okay, this is how they document it. Who is the author, and again there should be two people who is going to approve it and who is the author, and this will be going to QA director, and they will be approving it yes or no. Okay, that's how it will be. And this is what it contains. What does it contains? It contains what are the risks are we taking, and what are the items to be tested, not to be tested, and what are the various testing are we performing? Are we performing all the testing or only few of them? Like load testing, are we performing everything? Performance testing, and again, are we doing also regression testing? So all these things comes under test plan document. Okay, so that's the test plan, and you also have in the Google Drive, so no worries. Okay, so if you go here, you can also look into a test plan document. Now let's talk about this test strategy document. In some places, some places they say no, test plan, the strategy is okay. So is one. Okay, they say the test strategy and test plan is document is one. In that case, go with the flow. Don't argue that it's a different. This is different. Okay, it's nothing to do with it. Sometimes the project, the design is same, but technically, if you are going in detail, then of course these are two different things, because test plan is like planning. What are you planning? To move the project, right? To move project ahead, what are you planning? But the strategy is like, what if we get some issue in this project, right? What if we had so many issues? How are you going to handle those? So that's a test strategy document. Okay, you see the difference? It's actually the strategy, and that is planning. Okay, there's two different things. But normally, if if the project they say both are same, then go with the flow. Okay, so no need to argue with anyone. So here is the thing. What does it contains? It contains analysis, test phase criteria, pass fail criteria, test deliverables, staffing and training needs, risk and contingency. So whatever which test plan doesn't contain, this document contains all this. Okay, it's normally contains if there is an issue, how are we going to move forward, right? How are if there is a loss in the resources? Let's say too many people gone out of the project. How are we going to manage this project? So all these strategy kind of things are supposed to be in this strategy document. Does it make sense? Okay, so let's move pretty quick here. So let's move to the test cases. So we know test cases, right? So it's a high-level document, and who prepares this test plan, test strategy? QLE. Okay, QLE prepares this test plan and test strategy. Let's go to these test cases. Who prepares test cases? Yeah, QA. And what is a test case? Test case is a high-level document. What does it contains? It contains test case ID, objective, steps to perform, expected result, pass, fail, comments, remarks. This is what test cases contain. So so far we didn't see that. Remember in Rally, we didn't see all this, right? We were only filling up two information. That is, what the objective and what you're trying to do, right? What the result? Okay, what are your inputs? What is the result? But normally you have to, when you're saying in detail, you have to say test case ID, objective, steps to perform, expected result, pass, fail, comments, and remarks. So that's what the test cases contain. So next we'll go to migration document. So why do we need this migration document, right? So this migration, see the reason you have this migration document, right? Let's say there's a too many database, right? This source has too many database. Let's say it's Teradata, and these guys are migrating that from Teradata to Oracle, right? Oracle database. So you have this two things, right? Source and target. Now, when you're migrating, so a lot of things will be considered, right? Where the data is coming from, what's happening to the data, and all those things. And let's say some senior guy knows everything, knows even Teradata SQL, Oracle SQL, and he left the job, right? And the next moment he left the job and he's no more working. And now that's the problem. right? That guy knows in and out of the system. Everything he knows how the data is moving in and out, but it's gone. So now they have to hire a new guy, right? They have to hire a new guy. The new guy doesn't know what's happening, what's going on, how the project is, lot of things. Now that's how you need this migration document. So to see this, okay, what the project and how we are trying to move, and you have to get knowledge from all other team members. So what is going on and how the project is moving, and all those things. Okay. Any questions so far? So we'll move pretty quick because we are running a little bit late. So if does anyone have any problem, just take 5 to 10 minutes, okay, extra, because we're a little late here. Any questions so far? So these are all documents. Okay, so we discussed a lot about these documents. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. So you can go through that if you have. So I'll be giving access to Google Drive. Make sure you guys see, look into it and see, and if you have, most of the time you not have any questions, but if you have any questions, you can go ahead and email me. Okay, see if there's anything which you didn't understand. Okay. Okay, so here let's talk about this SDLC process. So again, what is SDLC? It's a framework, right? It's a framework, and why do we need this? You're just sure, right? You would say, no, I don't need this, and of course, this is this comes from management perspective, not QA, not developer, okay, not architects, no one. Doesn't implement this. This is implemented by high-level management and see what's going on with this. And so since it's a process-oriented, you have to understand this. Okay, so it's just about understanding what's going on. That's what all about this SDLC process. Okay, it's not something tool, it's not a software, but it's a process. Okay, it's a process. Let's see here. Go pretty quick from here. So here you go. So what is SDLC? It's a framework that describes the activities performed at each stage of software development project. Okay, so that means it's a flow, right? It's a flow. How are you going to? So if you are developing software, so you want to make sure how you are developing, right? You cannot go just like that. So that's the process. Okay, that's the SDLC model. So here, waterfall model is derived from SDLC. Let's see here. What does it contains? So it contains almost about 10 phases. Okay, let's see here. It's almost, I see this like almost it has like 10 phases in the DLC. Okay, so you see this 3, 6, and this 10 phases. Okay, so if you are good enough to to understand, you can go ahead, look into this. But I'll stick to only 6 phases here. Okay, that's only a worry about small. Okay, so if you understand all these things, okay, you can go ahead with the 10 phases. But we'll stick to only 6 phases here. First, requirements. Okay, so what happens here is it's a business analyst job or product. Okay, here only business analyst, no product owner. Product owner is called in agile. Okay, just the name terminology, difference in terminology. Okay, so here business analyst, what does they do? They collect all the information from the developer, from the tester, and they see how the business wants and what we are trying to do. This is application, and we are trying to add this new buttons. We are trying to add this new features, new functionalities, new web pages, new URLs, new images, so on. So this is what the job of a business analyst, to collect all the information and present it. And so this is what our requirement is. Okay, so this is what job of business analyst. Then the design phase. Now this here, and we look at the requirements and see how we can design. So this is a job of an architect guy. saying this, okay, we can design these many tables, these are the rows, okay, these are the columns, it can be primary key, it can be composite key, and all those things. It can contain front end, it can contain back end. All these things are, implemented by architect guy. Now the implementation, now this is the job of a developer, right? Now what it does is start coding based on architect instructions and requirements, sees the requirements. So this is what they will start writing the code. That's the implementation. Now test. Now this is what the job of a tester or QA, right? What do, you just, as you see, you have to write the test cases, execute the test cases, and if you have any bugs, you have to report. So that's the job of tester. Installation. So this is not developer, not tester. This is normally middleware team who actually moves the code, right? You have tested. Now code has been moved, right, from test to production. So now that's the job of a middleware team, okay, normally. But you have to coordinate. Okay, either way, you have to coordinate the developers and middleware team to make sure what's going on, how to move the the code and all the issues in moving out and a lot of things. Okay, so job of a middleware team. And maintenance. Maintenance normally developer guys will take care, and if senior QAs, or leads will be working in this maintenance phase. Okay, so 6 phases for the 6 different, 4 different people. Okay. Now, so my question here is, my question to you guys is, as a QA, as a tester, QA tester, right? Where will my work start from? Anyone? Now I'm a QA tester. From where does my work start from?
Listen.
After coding, okay. Requirement phase from the beginning of, okay, good. Anyone else? From the requirement, okay. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Anyone else? There's 9 people. Okay. Okay, good. So people who have answered requirements, so so what was the reason? Like, can anyone explain why requirement? So, as a tester said, like, the work starts from, our work starts from requirement phase. Any specific reason for that? Okay, understand the requirement. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, so yeah, that's one point. That's good. Understanding the requirement, that's very important. Okay, so our work as a QA, as a QA lead, a QA tester, as a matter of fact, anyone that doesn't have to be QA, doesn't have to be developer, doesn't have to be architect. Okay, that doesn't have to be your boss. Okay, as a matter of fact, anyone, it would be starting from the requirement phase, not just any phase, because so people who are answered like test only coding, so what we are going to do with other phases? You're not getting paid for, being idle, right? So you'll be idle with all these phases. So no, we are not going to be idle. We will be working right from first phase. Let's see how. So what we'll be doing as a QA, what are you going to do in the requirement phase? In this requirement phase, we will be working on brainstorming. Brainstorming. That means you'll be invited in the meeting. Our lead will be invited, of course. And what happens now is business analyst will say, this is the requirements, and this is what we are going to do. Now your lead will be saying, how are we going to do this? We don't have any QA environment ready yet. There's two QA environment that is already closed, and because there are people who are working, we cannot use any other environment. We don't have one. How are we going to approach it? Okay, so what are the various issues while we will be facing to this? How are we going to do the development process, because development is a different thing altogether. So all this brainstorming, right? This is called brainstorming. How are you going to move this code? How are we going to, this is the typical project, not like all we have, because this has many features, many dynamic features, many static features. PTO job is also with there. So all this is called brainstorming. This is all we have to discuss in the with the team member, with all the business analysts in the requirement phase. Okay, and of course you have to, as a tester, you also have to see that the requirements is good. Okay, do you find any issues with the requirement? Okay, you might also find issues with the requirement. You know, there can also be issues with the documents. Okay, document is not correct. You know, some data is missing. Some, you know, screenshots are not there, or you know, you want to know some specific information. All this you have to take care in requirement phase. So you are still opening defects in the requirement phase. Okay, not that you have to open. It's like you have to find any issues, or if you don't understand some point, you know, some part of it, then you have to, you know, get an understanding on that. Okay, so that's the requirement phase. Then you have the design phase. Okay, now here, as an architect guy, you will be designing it, but as a QA, what we are doing here, we will be writing test plan document. We'll be writing test strategy document, right? We'll be writing test cases here. Okay, you're not going to write test cases at the end. We don't have time. Writing test cases takes a whole lot of time. Okay, takes whole day or sometimes whole week. Okay, a lot of time. So design phase, you will be writing all those things: test plan, test strategy, test cases. Okay, so that's the job of QA here. And what is the job of QA in implementation phase? Let's say we didn't complete everything. Let's say we completed every test plan, test strategy. In implementation stage, we'll be writing test cases here. Okay. Now, what is the test? Of course, execution of the test cases. We see that, right? Few people executed the test cases. That's what we'll be doing in the test cases. I'm sorry. Test phase. So let's see. Let's show here. So you guys have executed, right? So writing the test cases will be done in this phase, implementation phase, and executing the test cases will be done in the execution. I hope everybody knows the execution, right? Let me show you here, people who missed it. Oh, yes. So in the design phase, you will be, you know, see here. In the design phase, you'll be working on various documents, test plan document, test strategy document. Okay, so you'll be working on various documents. Okay, as a QA. And as the testing phase, let's say what is next? Implementation phase, you'll be writing your test cases. Okay, as a QA point of view, I'm not talking about developer or any other guy. We are talking about tester QA. What we are going to do all these phases. Okay, so we are not idle in each of the phases. We will be working all through it through these phases. Let's see here. Let's say you have executed test cases. You know how to execute, right? So this is what we mean by execution. You see this successfully executed, and this remark, okay, it's a pass. Okay, I hope everyone can see this. It's me. Okay, so this is what execution process means. Okay, so this means we are executing our test cases. This will be our testing process. Okay. Okay, so let's go back here. Now you have next you have this installation phase. What we'll be doing, so you will be coordinating with the middleware team. Okay, so what you're going to do, so the code is moving from one environment to another, right? So the test environment to production, then you have to be a lot of coordination here. Okay, you have to coordinate with the middle team, what is happening, if there is any issues, how are we going to solve this, a lot of things. Okay, that's the installation phase. And maintenance phase, as a QA, mostly the senior QA or lead will be involving in this maintenance. If there's a production issue, how are we going to test it? How are you going to move this code and all those things? We'll be discussing maintenance phase. So this is a waterfall methodology. Okay. Okay. So let's. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's move pretty quick here. So it has its own advantages and disadvantages. Okay. So you can look into it. The only advantage of waterfall methodology is, let's see here. The most important advantage is when quality is more important than cost. That is very important. When you want to look quality, you want to see waterfall. And the advantage of waterfall is the disadvantage of agile is where cost is more important than quality. Now that's the problem, right? That becomes a disadvantage of agile because now there will be cost. So say no, I don't care the 6 month project. I want this 1 month. Finish this in 1 month. So now you have to go to agile because agile makes it fast. But then you are actually quality is getting decreased at that point of time. So that's the major advantage of this. Now there is one more methodology. Okay, so V-shaped SDLC. That means it's a similar. It's derived from SDLC process. But thing is, we are going to V-shape. That means we are simultaneously performing two things here. Okay, same requirement planning, production, operation, maintenance. Your requirements specification, testing, design, testing, detailed design, unit testing, coding. So this is V-shaped SDLC. It's based on the project. Normally I have never came across this thing, but of course if the project is typical, it's a different way of doing it, so that's how you actually perform this V-shaped SDLC model. Okay, let's go to the next one. So it has its own advantages and disadvantages. Let's go to the next. So RAD is a rapid application model. It's in agile. So we'll discuss when it's in agile. Okay. So we're not going to talk about RAD, but we're going to talk about Scrum. Okay. So that will be on Monday's class. Okay. So here incremental SDLC. SDLC, right? So this is a similar process, but here you are doing verification and validation. Okay. So somebody asked a question right at that time. So what's the difference between verification and validation? So that's the thing. Okay, are we building a product right? Okay, are we building right product? So that's the difference. Okay, that's the verification and validation we'll be doing. So other than that, okay, the process remains same. Okay, let's go to the next. Spiral SDLC. So in this spiral SDLC, what happens? Like it's divided into 4 quadrants. Okay, 4 quadrants. Again, these quadrants, it's based on the similar process. It's objectives and what is the alternatives and next product level and next phases. Okay, so again, it's same prototype, concept, requirements, design, implement. So you're going one after the other, moving into one quadrant to another quadrant. And in each quadrant, you're analyzing the requirements and designing it or implementing it or testing it. Okay, so we'll be moving one after the other. Since you're moving it in spiral way, that's why it's called as spiral SDLC. The whole process remains similar, not same, it's similar, but you are moving into different quadrants one after the other. Okay, that's the difference. Okay. So we'll talk about this agile in detail and see this. So agile is pretty high level. There are many sub levels to agile. It's a Scrum, Kanban, RAD, or extreme programming. All these are the part of the agile. Okay. So it's if you say somebody is agile, so it's a pretty high level. They don't know what you're actually working on. Okay, it can be Scrum, it can be Kanban, it can be extreme programming, it can be RAD, rapid application development. So here you see. Okay. extreme programming, RUP. So these are the parts. I mean, not part. You are most probably you will be working any one of them, but not all of them. Okay, mostly you'll be working on any one of them, but not all of them. Okay, these are the methods. So let's go to here real quick. Okay, so that's pretty much about SDLC. Okay, so let's go to here this document very quick. SDLC. So far we have talked about SDLC, like software development lifecycle. Now this is different. This is software testing lifecycle. Okay, and this is not something which developer knows. No, you have to know, because as a tester you will be having more in detail knowledge on testing, right? Okay, so what are we going to do? Now this is what we all have done it, but this documenting is important. So here that's what you're documenting. Test plan preparation. Okay, you know test plan, right? It's a high level document prepared by the QA lead. That's what we are going to do. Test case design. We have done this test case. See this? This is the test case. So test case design, test execution, and test log preparation. That's right. We have prepared. This is the test execution and log. This is what its log means. Okay. Which build is being and which is passed or not. Okay. And okay. So that's the test execution and test log preparation. Defect tracking. Let's say you have opened a defect, right? Well, this is what you want to know, which defect belongs to which one. Okay. This is number. You have this number, right? So that's what you want to track it. So that's called defect tracking. Test report preparation. Okay, so we talk about this. Test report, go to the reports and see this which report is appropriate, and you generate the report. So that's about the test reports. Okay, iteration burn down, burn up, release burn ups, all those things. Okay, that's called test report preparation. Okay, so all this we have actually done it. Okay, but this document is called testing lifecycle. Okay, so any questions in this? So you can go to the document. We'll talk about the status. We are already done with the status, but we'll go in detail on this. Okay, so severity, defect severity, and defects priority. Okay, so we have already talked about this in the defect, right? So let's see here. Any questions in this testing lifecycle? Testing lifecycle is test plan preparation, test case design. We already done test case design. We have to test plan. I'll give you homework on that one, so you'll be understanding on that. So test execution and test log preparation, we have already done that. Defect tracking, you have open defects, you have to track it, that's called defect tracking. Test report preparation, we also talk about this, how to generate the report. So that's all about testing life cycle. Okay, so let's go to the bug life cycle. Let's talk about this bug life cycle. So okay, we have this. Okay, so this is the bug life cycle, and what are we exactly talking about is what we have already done. Let's go to here, go to the defects, and so what we are talking in detail about is defect status. Okay, if you see here, go to the defects and click on that particular defect. Okay, you see this defect state, submitted, open. So this is what we are talking about. That's called defect life cycle. Okay, so let's be in detail here. So first, when you open the defect, is in the new status, and then again you have to change it to open because new doesn't help. Okay, once you change it to open, you assign a particular developer. That's called assign. Okay, now what did developer do? Either to fix it, to do one more actually block to fix it. And if that doesn't fix, then it goes to deferred or rejected. If it gets rejected, that means the defect is, is not a defect, or it's working on my system good. All those questions will be there rejected. Deferred is when you don't, and the developer says, no, I don't have time to work on this. I'm working a lot of things, so it goes to the next release. So that's what it means by deferred. Okay. Once it gets fixed, you test it. It comes back to you. You test it. And if you are reopening the defect, you have to be very careful. You cannot reopen it. If you are reopening it, you have to go to talk to the developer. Say that, hey, you know what, this is coming up again. This is a random defect. I'm not sure, how it's showing up, but it's showing up again. In that case, you want to check with the developer, talk to, have a meeting, or check with the lead and reopen it. Again, it goes to the developer or some other developer who is responsible for it. Then it gets fixed. Test it, verify it again, the same thing, and then you close this defect. So this is all about defect lifecycle. Okay, so can you guys able to hear now? Is it good now? Okay, so let's see here. Okay, is it good now? Okay, so yeah, so let me do this. Let me change my laptop. It's been a long time. Okay, so let me change from tomorrow. We'll get a new different laptop and see if it's working on. Okay, so here's the thing. So this is what we're talking about. So all this is actually um, we are talking about the status of this defect. Because this open submitted status, that means it's new, open, how this goes move on, okay, from developer to another developer, or it gets deferred or it gets fixed. Okay, so this is what we were talking about. So in detail, we were talking in detail about this defect. Okay, so yeah, let me do this. Okay, so people who are not able to hear it, send me an email. Okay, guys, send me an email actually. Okay, send me an email so we go through this defect life cycle. Okay, and see, it's normally we are talking about defect state. Okay, how it's moving from one state to another. Okay, from new, from new to open, from open to fixed, and if it's not fixed, then reopen. Okay, and that's the status. Okay, so we'll have this 5 minutes. If you if you are interested, we can talk about it. So 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 this is pretty much. Any questions so far? Yeah, so we go just to pretty quick here. So test plan and test strategy document. Okay, somebody requested what is the difference between test plan and test strategy, right? So okay, so test plan is test plan contains information about, let's see here. So this is what it contains. What is a test plan? Test plan is a high-level document prepared by the QA lead, and it contains information about what kind of testing, what are the different testings we are doing. Okay, test entry, exit criteria, test deliverables, test suspension. So all this contains in the test plan document. Okay, and test strategy is something which is different from test plan. It contains information what is not there in the test plan. Okay, because it contains about the risk. Okay, what are the risk it is there, what is the contingencies, what are the entry exit criteria. So if there is any risk, like if there is an issue or something, how are we going to proceed with that. So all this information contains in the test strategy document. Does it make sense? Okay, so let me send me an email. Okay, people who are not able to hear, we'll set up a conference and see that we'll get some maybe we'll share some video and see So any other questions other than that? Okay, so yeah, there might be some issues. So let me change the laptop and see if we can work. So okay, so can we close this class for today? Yes. Send me an email. So if anyone have any problems, send me an email. Okay, we'll discuss. Okay, we'll talk about this over phone and see. I'll share with the team viewer. The team viewer is much more better. Okay, we'll see that team viewer works, and and yes, we do have class from Monday. We'll be having till 19th. Okay, we'll be having till 19th, and I'll discuss the team viewer. That should be good, and see if we can um, So, no, we work on it. Okay, thank you guys.